Welcome to another episode of GSP, the Good Sugar Podcast. I am Ralph Sutton, and with me, as always, Marcus Antebi. I think it's a first. I think we're like 3 weeks in a row where he has the same background. So congratulations to that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
If you're new to the show, basically this show is about, it's health and wellness, trying to find yourself a better path in life. And you're going along with me where I've been trying to get into better shape, both mentally and physically. And Marcus has been doing his best to help me get there. And maybe along the way,
I'm working on myself
if you
too.
Fucking shut your mouth and let me finish. That was the next part of the sentence.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Sorry.
And maybe along the way, Marcus improves his life as well. But no, cutting people off is apparently one part that he needs to learn.
Or maybe not.
Maybe not. So I'm going to give you a couple of quick updates, and then we'll talk about it. I know you had something you said you wanted to talk to me about. We'll get into that as well. Last week I was supposed to do my fourth half marathon. My cousin bailed on me last minute. I ended up just doing 9 miles on my own. Yesterday morning I ran another, which for me is unbelievable, to do 6 miles in under an hour. That means like 9:50 or something like that per mile. For me is unbelievable when I started out running 14, 15-minute miles, which is slightly better than walking. So I'm very happy that I'm there, and we're going to do it again, weather permitting. Tomorrow morning, we'll do the next half marathon. And I'm doing one in February in Miami. It will be my first official race. I've never done that. All of my running is alone or with my cousin. I'm not a big competition guy. You are, but I'm not. I've never done a sanctioned race before.
Who's the you? You're talking about the audiences?
You're a competition guy.
Just to make sure, because if I was listening to the show and you just shouted, you are being self-centered, if I was in the audience, I would think that you were telling the person listening that they're into competition.
I think that's wildly presumptuous of me. I know you, and I know that you personally, Marcus Antebi, are.
That's a great, so that right there is a great, it's worth 2 minutes of our time.
Sure.
Competition. Is competition a good thing, or is competition an attachment? Is it a waste of time? Is it a distraction? Is it going to lead to suffering? What do you think?
I think as long as it doesn't become an obsession, it can be a good thing. If it's way too important for you to win, not a good thing. I think I'd go the other direction where I'm so laissez-faire with it. I briefly was on the racquetball team in college, right? Very, very briefly. And I found it all too silly. It found that I was like, when I'd be playing a game again, I'm like, man, this guy wants to beat me so badly. It started to make me laugh. It's like, it's a fucking game. Like, why is he so? And I was not a good competitor because I don't have that, like, oh my God, I have to beat him mentality. So I don't know if that's good or bad. That's always been my persona.
Persona non grata. Also, laissez-faire for any of our listeners under 700 years old. That means just relaxed?
It means hands off. Technically, it translates to hands off, or like you don't really, you're backing up,
right,
whatever.
Okay, yeah. All right. I think the way that we should think about ourselves as human beings is having a animal side to us and somewhat of an intellectual side that's a little bit lifted. And there's lots of things that we're driven to do animal, and there's lots of things that we strive to do that are elevated above just being killers and doing that kind of stuff. So I think competition is something that's naturally hardwired into our our dispositions, our chemistry, our DNA. Maybe there's instinct. I think like anything, it can be used as a positive tool, especially if a person is struggling to accomplish things in their life that are incredibly important. That person can say, you know what, if there's 16 other people cycling in this class and we're all going for a better time, if I concentrate on that, I'll do my best. And so that competition in that case could be helpful. If the competition goes too far, where we're jamming a spear down someone's throat for food, I say that's where it becomes a little bit detrimental. So that's the way I look at competition.
It's funny. I find myself to compete against myself a lot, meaning like I know I want to beat my last time when on a run or in the Peloton.
That's mostly when you're masturbating, right?
Or if I want to complete in faster time in there as well. So that's where my competition. But like when I'm out running, like with my cousin, I don't have a desire to say, oh, I'm going to show him how fast I am. Like I know he's 10 times faster than me. So what is the point? I go at a race that I'm comfortable with, at a pace rather that I'm comfortable with.
I think we brought this topic up before on the show about competition and exactly this. And I would say that competition should not cause anxiety and stress and then distract the person from what it is that they are setting out to do in that thing. On the other hand, a young person, imagine a 15-year-old who has to do a routine in gymnastics at the Olympics. They're competing. The competition is so focused in their mind that it's one of the reasons why they don't lose concentration when there's an audience, because there's a gold medal in the back of their mind.
Right.
And so one could say it's really always about balance and being mindful of that thing. If competition is the thing that's required to accomplish the task, then just be mindful if you can. Become aware of yourself and understand when to turn it off and when it's becoming a problem. And not everybody has that. Some people may not compete at all because it makes them feel uncomfortable or anxious, and some people might overcompete, which is also coming from the same place, anxiety and fear.
Granted. So now, speaking of fear, segue is perfect. I did something this week, and I sent Brian, our producer, the picture. Before you show it, Brian, I'm a big advocate of new experiences, right? Actually, on my dating profile on websites, it says, I know that on my deathbed, I'll be lamenting and thinking back about the times I went on a great trip or swam with the pigs in Bahamas versus, are you leaving us? What do you do? Oh, there you go. Or versus the time that I owned a nice watch. I know that I care more about the experiences. So very often I will book experiences or restaurants or things I hear about in New York with no intention of who's coming with me. I just book them and put a thing in my phone. In 4 days, you're doing this. In 5 days, you're doing this. And then see who wants to come with me. So I did this wild thing. I sent Brian the picture. For you, I don't think it's going to be wild. But for me, it was crazy wild.
Are you competing with me again?
So here I am with the audio listeners that don't see this. There's a new thing. It's called The Edge, where you get tethered to a building. It's the tallest building in Manhattan. It's a kind of an interesting thing because they made it clear on the show. I mean, on the trip that
show it again. You took it off too quickly.
While One World Trade Center is technically higher, the big bulk of that is the spire on top of One World Trade. We are at the highest point that a human can be in Manhattan, which was, I think it was, I'm going to make up the number, it was like 120 stories or something like that. I don't know exactly the number, 115 stories. And so you get tethered to the building. You walk up the side of the building, which was pretty wild. That was scary. And then at the top, it's like a summit. You lean back, stretch out your legs and arms, and you're hanging over Manhattan. And then the second part, which they don't show in a picture, which to me was much more scary,
is they throw kittens over the side.
No, you lean forward, and now you're flying like Superman, and you're looking straight down. That was scarier. For you, probably looking at that picture does nothing because you're skydiving. That doesn't even shock you at all. Am I right?
Not at all.
It seems very, very very blasé.
Not blasé. It's, look, there's people there's goats. You look at them, they actually climb these cliffs with their feet like tethered to the side just to hang out and get to where they're going.
Mountain goats, we would call them.
My friend Jeff Provenzano, great guy, has 23,000 skydives. I know a lot of people that do stuff, get in the ring and fight and whatever it is. I think that for me, where I'm at the stage of my life right now is, yes, if you said, come on, we're going competitively, I'd be like, no problem. I would go there. I would look at the harness. I would make sure that they had good welds and box stitches. I would look at all the connection points. I would look at the fingernails at the guy hooking me up. And if one thing was off, I'd laugh in his face and say, I'm not doing this. And if it looked completely precise, I would do it. Whatever.
By the way, not only do they harness you in, once they do, they zip tie all the connections and clip it so that you can't undo it. And they do 3 blood alcohol tests before you go out in case anyone snuck any alcohol in.
Wow.
They want to make sure you're completely sober. The whole experience.
They want to make sure that you're not there to commit suicide.
They want to make sure you get blitzed before you go up. So that if you're not high enough, they give you more alcohol.
Well, they don't have any stopgaps in skydiving. When people come and do tandems, the only thing that makes it impossible for someone to kill themselves is that it's just such an overwhelming experience. I can't imagine anybody their first time figuring out how to unhook themselves.
Well, what if you sneak a knife in and you start trying to cut the rope?
It's never, you know what? I know a lot of tandem jump masters, and we used to joke and talk about stuff like that. The worst thing that happens to the craziest people is they pass out, they vomit,
right?
They scream the whole way down. A jump master one time told me that after they landed perfect skydive and he unclipped the woman from those attachment points, she started crying and she started kicking him when they were on the ground.
If we're tandem jumping, I'm in front of you. Can I keep headbutting you if I want to, or is that not possible?
Well, that's actually a good question. A tandem jump master is someone who has several thousand jumps minimum, and they go through a very rigorous training program. And one of the things that they train for is worst case scenario nightmare tandem students. Like someone in a state of panic, actually, strangely enough, that could be a motor skill reaction, is that you begin to attack. Like when someone's drowning and you go to save them and they push your head under. It's kind of a very insane response when someone is coming to like get you out of drowning.
Sure, that happens a lot. I could see that happening. Yeah.
So it's not common, but you do hear of people who do headbutt, or they'll grab the hands of the tandem master behind them so that they have a feeling that they're holding on to something. And tandem masters, they literally train how to get out of that.
What if I try to keep grabbing his schlong? Does he know a way to get out of that?
Well, the schlong is already pressed up against the coccyx. So, you really have to think about some of these intentions. At some point, the tandem jump master has enough time to just completely disconnect you.
That's fair.
It's like, if you're trying to kill me and it's obvious right now, I'm really just going to drop you in free fall again, and I'll deal with my attorneys.
Fair enough. So, by the way, this was something, then we'll go into the main topic of today. I was talking to my mom about weight loss, because she's trying to lose weight too, and I am as well, and as you know. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't realize, not just with something like weight loss, but in any aspect of life. Let's say you're trying to get better at playing tennis, or you're trying to weight loss. The look at the graph is not linear down or linear up, depending on what you're doing. Like if you're trying to improve in tennis, you don't just get better and better and better every day. That's not how it works. And if you're trying to lose weight, you don't just lose weight every single day. It's cyclical, like life. There's highs and lows. You're going to get better, but you're going to be a little worse. So you're going to gain a little weight, you're going to lose a little weight. But as long as you take a step back and look at the analysis and the overall picture is going down, that's all that matters. Because my mom today was very upset because she's been taking tennis lessons, and the last 2 weeks she's had terrible gain, but she's gotten better overall. And I said, in the same respect, I'm going down and down from weight. I was 320, now I'm 255. But the other day I weighed myself and I was like 257. But I know it's going to go down eventually. Don't get upset over the minimal things, as long as the grand picture makes sense. How do you feel about that?
Well, the thing that you're talking about is it's also known as a moving stochastic average.
It's good words.
Yeah, and it's probably not true. I just thought it was really a good time.
Stochastic is probably not a statistic.
No. So I was having a conversation years ago about a guy about distributing products from our commissary, and I told him about the mathematical problems with moving product, and he heard the problem and he said, "Oh, it's easy. It's a moving stochastic average." Just because he said that, I wanted to hire him, and then I looked it up and I said, "That's not right."
That's really funny.
But if you say that almost any time, everybody else is going to be, wow, that's...
Yeah, as long as you... I learned a long time ago, as long as you talk with authority, people believe you.
Say it with a straight face. It takes time for things to happen in your chemistry in your body. And there's certainly so many different approaches. One, obviously, is a caloric reduction with an output of more use of energy that should balance out in a math equation, right? You should say, oh, I'm moving more, eating less. I have to lose something. Something has to go. And it takes time. Obviously, that's going to pan out to be truth. If a person doesn't eat for a very long time, no matter what's going on in their chemistry, eventually they're going to start to wither away. And that's just what's going to happen. The thing that people forget is, what weight do they want to lose? Do you want to lose water weight? Do you want to lose muscle mass? If you exaggerate these things and rush them, you're not going to lose what you want. You're not going to lose the parts of your body that you don't want. And so the best thing to do is to move slow and take time.
Not only with that, it's the same thing with any aspect of your life.
Sex. With sex.
Well, I use my running as an example. My brother did this and ended up hurting himself, which is like, if you say, all right, I'm back to running, I'm going to go run 6 miles today, and you haven't run in 6 months, you're probably going to hurt yourself.
Why do we do that?
I did it too. That's why my shoulder's fucked.
It's important to think about and it's different for everyone, is why we do that. First thing is we hate boredom, we're impatient, and we have anxiety. We got the will and the ego every single day of my life, no matter what work I did the day before, no matter what book I read, no matter how spiritual I think I am, how smart I am, every fucking day when I wake up, it's game over, start over from scratch. I'm anxious. I'm a little bit better, and I actually catch myself. I just see it. I laugh. I go, I can't believe it. I'm anxious again. And so what I've come to realize is there's not something wrong with me. It's just part of the condition of what the will and the ego is. The will and the ego
Wait, I have a partner coming in right now. Do you see that?
What the hell is that?
I have taken care of
you have
two
a dog?
dogs.
Oh,
two dogs in the house.
will, listen, you distracted.
Sorry, you scared me.
The will and the ego wants what it wants right now. And there's nothing you're going to do to stop it. You can't destroy that. What you can do is become aware of it and learn to temper it. Temper it. Say,
I also think we're impatient as human beings.
Yeah.
I'm giving it gung-ho right now.
Of course.
And also I think for me, it was like, I'll show you who's 51. Fuck
That's right.
that. And And I did show someone because I screwed up my shoulder pretty bad.
You got to catch it, especially with things like weight loss. You could say, wow, first of all, I'm grateful that I'm on the path. It's not just about weight loss. I want to eat healthy. I want to think about my food, and I want to stay on this path. And so the best thing a person can do is bring themselves from ignorance to knowledge. First, learn about the chemistry of the body, learn about the mistakes that you've made in the past, start learning about what's good, and start deciphering all the stupidity that's out there, and create new habits for yourself. As my friend says, atomically. What's that guy's name?
Who?
The guy who wrote the book called Atomic Habits.
I forget his name, but yeah, I like that book. I recommend that book to people all the time.
That book should have been 3 pages.
Yeah, a lot of it is
just to prove his point. All you need is a tiny 3 pages of a book to create a new habit, which is to think about doing things not atomic in terms of like explosion and energy. It means atomic that
James Clear is the name, apparently.
James Clear. We break down the things that we're doing into smaller components that we can succeed and work at every day. And that is the hard thing for a person to do. It's hard for a child, but it should be easier for us as grownups if we work at that and say, I just have to do this much today, and I'm doing it. If you just say, I'm on a diet today, and you're 1% better than you were yesterday, you're better. And that's that. Of course.
There's a great, and I'm fucking up the quote, but if it comes easy or feels good immediately, probably not good for you. And I agree with that.
I don't know. What if you were in the desert and you were thirsty and water was put in front of you and you drank it quickly and you felt relief?
Well, I think we are in a unique situation there. I'm talking about.
Okay, I'm just checking. I want to make sure there's no absolutes.
So now this brings us to the main topic of the day. For me, you used the word karma, right? And I actually coincidentally was going to bring this to the table this week. So I guess it was kind of serendipitous that we both had the same idea to bring to the table. And I will tell you it was an epiphany that I had. It's happened a couple times over the years, and it happened again literally yesterday. So very often I am walking around the city and I see someone in some state of duress or stress. Like yesterday, it was a woman trying to lift a big like suitcase into her car. And I could see she was struggling with it. Other people are walking by. No one seems to care. I say, I'm sorry, miss, do you need help? Oh my God, thank you so much. And for me, not that I'm such a big, strong guy, but she was a smaller woman. I just pick up the suitcase, put it into the car, and that's that. Recently, not that long ago, it was a woman trying to lift her baby carriage up the porch stairs of the brownstone. And so each time that these things happen, the surprise elation of the person not only tells me it's gratitude, which great, thank you, gratitude, but it tells me not enough people stop to care about their fellow man or woman, as the case may be, or
it became complicated.
Non-binary identifier, whatever it might be.
You need to have her sign a waiver before you pick up her suitcase.
I hear one of the dogs
breaks off.
I hear one of the dogs crying. I feel so bad. Anyway, so I feel, and for me, it's always about the simple mantra: teach people how you want to be treated. Right? I'm sorry, treat people how you want to be treated. So that's easy enough to live by. And I think you could paraphrase that as karma. Is that fair?
No.
Why not?
Because it would be an incorrect use of the literal term Sanskrit language, and it perpetuates a certain amount of ignorance. And so I would never use it that way.
Why not? Basically, karma is what you put out there is what you get back. Is that
Not always. No, that's not true. I mean, I don't think that's what karma is. I think first we should go into Did you watch that video I sent you from that?
I'll be a full disclosure with our listeners. Marcus, I have a video disclosure. I want you to watch. Okay, cool. He sends me a 2-hour and 20-minute video 15 minutes before we're going on the air. And I wrote back to you immediately, what would you like me to do with this right now? It's 2 hours and 20 minutes and we're going on the air in 15 minutes.
Just watch the intro.
I stopped right away. I don't know what to do. If you would have responded, just watch the intro, I would have watched the intro.
I was busy. I was doing a handstand. Sorry.
All right. So I did not watch it because I see 2 hours and 20 minutes.
It's okay. Here's
and also we've discussed Satguru at length before.
Here's the takeaway from it. When we're talking about health and wellness and we start to pull from ancient crafts and wisdom from the past, it's really important that we understand the meaning of those things or they can further confuse us. I'm not being a dick. I'm actually saying it in a way that it took me a long, long time to unravel from my misinterpretations of ancient wisdom. Karma is just a word that really describes the first law of the physics of this universe, which is the law that everything that exists, everything in the material universe was caused by something. So it's a concept of cause and effect. Everything that exists was caused by something. Can you repeat that for me with your high IQ?
I mean, you just said everything that exists was caused by something. That's
right. Okay, that's all that it means.
But also it's because in scientific terms, all matter just changes forms. It never goes away.
And it's linked. Everything that happened. Let's do a starting point to make it easy and say we believe in the thing called a Big Bang. Forget about what happened before. From that Big Bang, that cause, it affected something, right?
I don't think creationists believe in the Big Bang, though.
We have to start somewhere. It's all stories, okay? We can go on forever, and I don't have the math skills to go earlier than the Big Bang. The point what I'm trying to make is that the rock that we're sitting on is linked to the event of that explosion through 13 point something billion years ago. And so what ancient meditators who were not distracted and who were paying attention to what was going on inside the cerebral thinker, the human being, is they figured that out. They said the thing that's driving the universe is cause and effect, and physicists agree. That's what karma is, cause and effect. Now, if you're not a physicist and you're not trying to send telescopes and satellites into space, how does that have any value to you? It does, just a little bit, because what it tells you is that your entire life, every thought you have, every feeling you have, positive or negative, is linked to the previous thought, the previous action, the previous feeling. Each thing is linked. And so why that's valuable to you is because you can say, if I take this action right now, it'll have this effect a moment later, a year later, a week later, cause and effect. In terms of it being retribution, heaven and hell, if a guy does bad, he will receive bad. That's a whole separate narrative, which I don't subscribe to, because I know a lot of good people that had bad things happen to them, and I know a lot of bad people that had good things happen to them. Someone would argue and say, well, somewhere in the history of things, karma's, payback's a bitch. Who cares about that? There's no value to that. The value is just understanding that you are responsible for the things that are in your life because of karma.
Well, I would say we've discussed once or twice on the show before, your brain always wants to identify patterns. That's just in the nature of it. The best example I've often give is if you're thinking about buying a new car, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere on the road. It didn't get more popular all of a sudden. Your brain just notices it more because you're thinking about it and your brain likes patterns, right? So the more good you put out, the more positive you put out, the more likely that your brain, which just creates your universe, really sees the good in the world, sees the things that would register as positivity to you because, again, your brain wants to identify patterns. So loosely, in that respect, I get the idea of the version of karma that I gave, which is doing good brings out good and doing bad brings out bad.
All right, you know what? We're
about,
saying the same thing then.
Right.
As long as you're saying it's not linked to something mystical.
No, I don't feel that. And also I feel
it's not like I drop coins in the charity box and I win gravy points in the afterlife.
Of course not. But I think also
that's the karma I have a problem with.
Right. Well, anything mystical I tend to have a problem with, but I also feel that
it's more than mystical. It's superstitious.
Yeah, it is. It is. But
and it's not the. Can I say one other thing?
Yeah.
The reason it's important to understand cause and effect is because how we perceive what's happening in our life, the world, and the universe greatly affects our happiness, our suffering, and our struggling. The biggest mistake a person could make about the nature of reality is that everything that's happening was already predetermined, destiny, written in a book, and that's the way it is. There's been many different philosophical programs that had that wrong viewpoint. And there's nothing to debate. If you want to believe that, believe it. Who cares? No one should judge you. In my humble opinion, it's the wrong viewpoint of the world. If the world was already written and predetermined, there'd be no point in trying. You might as well just lay in bed and let things roll out the way that they were already written. There'd be no point in improvement.
There is some scientific evidence. You know, we currently live in 4 dimensions, obviously, right? And there's a thought process that once we start being able to appreciate the 5th dimension, you know, we live in, then you can see, because in theory, the timeline is already written out. We just don't see it yet. I don't know how true it is. It's just there's a lot of interesting.
It's ridiculous that it can't possibly be.
Well, then a lot of science isn't real.
It's not a lot of science. I've listened to at least half a dozen incredible philosophers and physicists argue this matter out.
There's no way to know. For me, there's no way to know.
You can't say that science even thinks that there's a timeline that's already been written. It was tampered with or thought of by Albert Einstein, and he never held his ground with that.
Well, just like, for instance, because gravity and affects time differently, it's been proven people that live on the upper or lower hemispheres are technically slightly in the future. Any astronaut that has ever left the
by
Earth
by 0.00123 of seconds.
Whatever it is. So then if you can extrapolate that further, eventually you might be able to look outside. So right now we live in 4 dimensions or 3-dimensional space and time. If
Hold
we
on, I got to drop some acid.
One, it's possible. I don't know. You know, who knows? There's no way to know. But
wait, I'm sorry, I didn't take my tab of acid yet for this show.
Shit. Hold on one second. Hold on. So yeah, look, there's no way we're gonna. I can't. It's just like for me with conspiracy theorists. I don't argue with them. Why? There's no way to prove it right or wrong. I can't prove that Bill Gates didn't put microchips in the COVID vaccine or that the Earth isn't flat. I can't prove it. You know, I just can't. So if you want to choose to believe whatever you choose to believe, that's fine with me, right? So the only thing I was going to say, though, is that while bad things happen to anybody, how you deal with those things is what I think about more. Where just like the famous example that we've given on the show, if someone cuts you off in traffic, you can choose to believe that person was doing it to say fuck you to you, or maybe that guy's rushing to the hospital to save his son. Who knows? You don't know. You choose to create that reality. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. I think this is a positive discussion. We got our viewpoint on the subject matter out there. And I think that in the future, we should have some guests on the show that are living in the 5th dimension or have found a way to wind up.
Watch Interstellar. Interstellar handles that concept very, very well.
Really good. And Matthew McConaughey is a dreamy looking guy to watch.
He is dreamy. The dogs are crying. By the way, I'm taking care of, this is on the karma tip. I'm taking care of 2 dogs right now. One is a deaf pit bull and one is a blind 17-year-old Chinese crested, and they require a lot of maintenance.
There's a joke in there somewhere.
I'm sure, but that's why I'm a little frazzled. I haven't been slept well the last couple of days, and they're here till Tuesday. I love them both very much, but it definitely is a lot of work.
You should say one of them. One of the dogs is tough and ruthless, and the other one is rough and toothless.
Yeah. So lastly, just the last quick thing, and then we'll go, because we usually try to keep it about 40 minutes when there is no guest on. She's really crying. I feel horrible. There's a big COVID uptick in New York right now, and it's freaking everybody out. I'm personally not freaked out, but I know in the last week, a bunch of people who have tested positive. I'm going to say about 10 people I know have tested positive, right? And it's starting to freak me out. But what I like for me personally is I got COVID and I got boosted. And according to all the science that I tend to prescribe to, I'm basically bulletproof right now. So I feel okay. But I just worry because I started to feel as recently as a week or two ago, hope that we were on the other side of this. And now I'm starting to worry, oh, maybe we're not. Any thought?
I'm trying to stay out of the fight because there's things here that are well outside of my scope of knowledge. And I don't like to say the things that people are saying on either side. I don't think that they're exactly right all the time. And I think there's a lot of negativity out there. And there's, someone called me yesterday and said, I got my vaccine twice. Am I a bad citizen for not getting a booster? Mm-hmm. And I thought that was a really valid point. And I said, well, what if there's just keeps becoming a new variant and they keep saying booster, booster, booster? At what point can you decide to bow out without being a bad citizen?
Right. Well, I could say this. The guy I got the booster from said something interesting. If you look at the card that you're given, right, there were 4 blank spaces there. It was shot 1, shot 2, then 2 more blank spaces. And the guy said they knew that this wasn't going to, that there was a chance that you would need something down the road. So again, at some point, I'm sure there would be a revolt by booster 4 or 5. There might be people going, all right, what's going on now? But whatever. I'm just saying that it is a little disheartening that I feel that New York was so on an uptick. And I went out last night, and all anyone was talking about around me was this sense of dread that was hitting me.
Well, they probably didn't have much to talk about without COVID. So, I mean, I would say, look, there's something actually happening here. We know that there is a thing. People are getting sick. They call it a virus. We're all laymen. We're not looking at microscopes. We don't really understand it. We just know what people are telling us. We have to use common sense. We have to use social responsibility. We have to use our survival skills because it's just a lot to take in, and you can't be so stressed out about it that the stress itself can compromise.
Yeah, I agree with you. The only thing I'm going to say is I want to stop hearing the phrase do your own research, because if Googling things means do your own research, you're not doing research. You're just Googling things. Research is a lot more complicated than Googling.
It's better than doing nothing. It's better than
as you're looking. What you're doing is you're looking for stories that fill your narrative.
Well, when someone says do your own research, does anybody expect to put a $25 million facility?
I don't think this is what I saw online is a better statement. Yeah. This is what I saw online. This is what I choose to believe. Unless you're legitimately working with some sort of company that's doing research, then I don't care.
But see, the problem with the
the dog is freaking out too. I got to leave soon. I got to tell you, they think I got to walk these two because they need to be walked.
Let me say this last point. It's one of those scenarios in a society that doesn't have a simple answer to it.
There is no simple answer, of course. But also,
there's no simple answer.
People want simple answers. People want big answers. That's the problem. When there's a big problem, they want big answers. And taking a vaccine is too simple of an answer.
Well, also,
look, it's got to be a conspiracy. It's got to be planned.
The people who are against vaccines do not oftentimes take a sober, sound, relaxed approach. They bring panic and fear into the situation as well.
You could argue that on both sides, I would think, but yes.
Yeah, of course, it's on both sides. And so I think ultimately when you say to someone, do your own research, it's a relative term. Read, look at things, figure stuff out, watch the news, whatever.
The only thing I'm going to say is this. If you have a doctor in your life you've been trusting your whole life for every other aspect of your life, and he thinks you should get a vaccine, maybe get a vaccine.
What if his name is Dr. Jekyll?
Okay, that's fine. I'm sorry. These dogs are freaking out. I don't mean to be rude. I feel like I'm always the one that ends this early, but I got to go because the blind one keeps walking into fucking walls and freaking out. Nothing? You don't care about dogs.
Our producer sends me love letters while we're talking, and I know that he has so much to say about the COVID.
Well, I read it too. He says no one died from Omicron. He's a conspiracy theorist.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
He gets his news from comedians. That is a derogatory
news from
Brian, listen, we're all conspiracy theorists in one way or the other. Brian
never theorize.
Brian he's an underground bohemian type of guy. He's a nonconformist in many different ways.
That's a big part of it, by the way. I think a lot of people like to be on the other side.
It's a positive and a negative at the same time. It's just like any one of us. I wouldn't classify him as a conspiracy theorist, although he kind of is. I wouldn't say that.
All right, we got to go. Listen, follow me ever at I am Ralph Sutton. Also, by the way, last week's episode with Mariel Hemingway, she was fucking so charming. I was hypnotically charmed by her. She was amazing and got a lot of good feedback and response from that. But on my other show, the SDR show, we taped a lot of great episodes. TJ Miller's coming on soon. I forgot we have a couple of great rock bands.
$600.
Say again? Oh, he owes you $600. That's right. A couple of great comics coming in. It's just been a really good run lately. The best month SDR has ever had in the 6 years we've been doing it was November, which is fantastic. And just follow me over at I am Ralph Sutton. I would ask Marcus to plug something, but he's going to say something nonsensical.
I'm going to plug it. You know what? Come and follow me on my journey on social media at Marcus Antebi. I'm going to do stuff in the next month that is so unbelievable and spectacular. You will feel completely out of touch with society and what's in and on trend if you are not following me.
There you go. That was a good plug. All right, we'll see you next time on GSP, the Good Sugar Podcast.